Yeehaw! Let's do some trigonometry review. So as you may remember, we have this phrase SOHCAHTOA. And I like to put kind of a line through it because this means that sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. By definition, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. And the way I remember that is that these two letters do not match. It's like they're trying to make it harder for you. All right, and then if we know that secant is 1 over cosine, I can just go ahead and take this and do the reciprocal, and I know that this is equal to h over a. Now, cosecant is going to be the reciprocal of sine. Again, they try to make it hard for you. Notice how the c and the s do not match. And so I can go up to sine, and I can do the reciprocal of that, which is h over o. And lastly, our cotangent is the only one that actually makes sense. Cotangent is going to be 1 over tangent of a, and that's going to be the reciprocal of this, which is a over o. All right, now let's go ahead and think about what sine of a is. Well, first of all, I'd have to kind of identify an angle as being a, and then we'd have a right triangle. And I have to label my sides. So I'm going to go across from angle A, and the thing that's across from angle A is the opposite. Across from the 90 is going to be the hypotenuse, and then the remaining side is the adjacent. So let's go ahead and, just for the sake of doing an example, let's call this a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So my sine would be opposite over hypotenuse, which is 3 over 5. My cosine would be a over h, which is a 4 over 5. My tangent would be o over a, which would be 3 over 4. And now here I'm going to do h over a, or I can just look at my cosine, which is 4 over 5, and do the reciprocal, which is 5 over 4. Same thing here, I could do h over o, or I could look at my sine, and I could do the reciprocal, which gives me 5 over 3. And lastly, I've got a over o, which I could see as 4 over 3 here, or I could also see it as the reciprocal of this. All right, now folks, that angle may not always be in that location. So for example, in this problem here, we might have an angle B is here. And in this case, our opposite would be here. Our hypotenuse would be located in the same spot, but our adjacent would be up here this time. And so again, let's go ahead and label our triangle with a 3, 4, 5. And go ahead and fill out this table right here and see if it matches mine. Pause the video. All right, here's what I got for my answers. This is an O over H, an A over H, an OA, O over A. This secant is the reciprocal of this. This cosecant is the reciprocal of this. And this cotangent is the reciprocal of that. All right, moving on. So here we're going to simplify trig expressions, and this is just a way to make sure you know what each of these functions stands for. In this case, I can go ahead and rewrite cosine x times secant x squared. And then I can go ahead and write this as cosine x times 1 over cosine x times 1 over cosine x. And if you're confused about why, well, remember on the last slide, I defined secant x to be 1 over cosine x. And since this is squared, I have 2 of those. Okay, now in this case, I have my cosine x and my cosine x here cancel. So I'm left with 1 over cosine x, which is, by definition, secant x. And I am done. All right, this next one here, let's go ahead and simplify this. I'm going to start by writing this as 3 fractions. So this is going to be cosecant x over 1 times 1 over, and I'm going to write this as cosine x quantities squared times sine x. Okay, so now we need to know what cosecant x is. I'm going to take that and I'm going to rewrite that as 1 over sine x. So this is going to be a 1 over sine x. And here my sine x's cancel, and I am just left with 1 over cosine squared x. Now think about what that actually is. And you can write it the way I did here or here, but what was 1 over cosine? Well, 1 over cosine is secant, so this whole thing is actually going to be equal to secant squared x. All right, let's try another one. And so anytime you're kind of like, hey, what should I do? Well, you're going to just rewrite things as fractions. And so, for example, in this case, cotangent x, I can think about that as being 1 over tan x. And then I have 3 secant tan x. And you can see here how lovely this is, that the tan x and the tan x are going to cancel. And I'm just left with a 3 secant x. Fun. All right, now just a little bit of review solving for theta here. If I want to solve for theta, I want to get this to be just simply sine theta equals something. So I'm going to divide by 4. So this is going to give me x divided by 4 is equal to sine theta. And now just for the sake of convenience, I'm going to rewrite this as sine theta equals x over 4. And you should remember that the inverse of sine is a sine inverse. So I'm actually going to take the sine inverse of both sides. Well, the sine inverse and the sine cancel, and so my final answer here is going to be theta equals sine inverse of x over 4. What a blast. All right, that's it, folks, for this video. I know it was covered a lot, and we'll certainly cover more in class, but just kind of a broad idea of what is trig, how do things simplify, and what are they defined as. Thanks for watching.